Guys, I do thank everybody for coming out. It's nice to see this many interested people in the group. The Chamber of Commerce is proud to host the forums yet again. We were founded in 2016, and we did host the 2018 forums. And in the interest of being non-biased, they've kicked me out because I can't be trusted, and I am going to introduce our moderator, Lene Gutowski. Lene has lived in the RM of Springfield for over 40 years, growing up in the Cooks Creek and Oakbank area in a family. I think that this is well immersed in business, equestrian, and recreational spheres. That's an understatement. Her resume ranges from medical administration, self-employment, entertainment. I'm sure you all remember her band Border Street, because I do. Industrial retail, and for the last 15 years, she's been employed with Boxstall Construction in the role of project services and environment sustainability. Having been brought up to continually give back to our community, Lene has been an active volunteer in a variety of programs and events for over 25 years. She's a member and award-winning speaker with Prairie Voices Toastmaster, is currently an executive member of the Oakbank Community Club. She's one of the founders and co-chair of Ad Hoc Entertainment. She is Ad Hoc Entertainment, and a nonprofit that brings you the Springfield Chicken Days Festival. They're also a member of our Chamber of Commerce. So Lene is absolutely the perfect person to host this. She cares about the community, and I think that what we need to get to is having people participate that do care deeply, that have a vested interest. And Lene, we welcome you, and thank you for your time and interest in this. Pizza maker. Oh, and she also makes a lot, or used to make a lot of pizza. I'm sure she still does.
Every now and then.
She may sing something by the end of the night. Who knows? Here you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Shandy. Good evening, everybody. I welcome the invested and interested citizens of the RM of Springfield, but more than that, I welcome specifically the residents of Ward 1 and 2. We all know in the diverse politics of today, Ward 1 and 2 takes on a range like no other RM in Manitoba. These candidates right here, I welcome them too, because they've stepped up to give you a voice and an ear on many of the different issues and concerns. And these two incumbents to Ward 1 and 2 have everything to deal with, from big business, agriculture, or aggregates as well, small business, Main Street business, residential development, recreation on a very large scale. This is where the RM of Springfield differs. So thank you for giving your ear, and a little bit later I'll have them introduce themselves. I would also like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for their organization in planning this forum. It's an opportunity for us to get to meet the candidates. Now, on that note, I will say Andy Kozinski was not available for tonight, and Vince Benici, running in Ward 1, had a prior engagement, I guess. So fair to them. They have been given, though, since September 27th, questions that we were going to ask tonight, and there was a certain amount of forward knowledge that they had given to research. So I thank Glenn and I thank Howard for showing up tonight, incumbents for Ward 1 and Ward 2. And again, the Sunrise School Division for allowing us the Springfield Collegiate Library tonight. Before we begin tonight, though, a little bit of housekeeping rules. If you have any cell phones or pagers, please put them on vibrate or silent. Of course, emergency exits, you know where they are. This is Springfield Collegiate, the front door, and out the side to the east end. And the biggest thing here is respect. For me, tonight's forum will be videoed, for sure. and it'll likely be up within 24 hours. And we all know the election is coming on the 26th. But most importantly, I want to note in general terms that in this current time of misinformation, disinformation, too much information, or a lack of, what we have here, especially in the last 4 years with COVID and everything else, is a real varied and multitude of opinions. And again, I spoke about the wide range of concerns for the RM Springfield, and specifically Ward 1 and Ward 2. So we ask for respect here. We don't want any catcalling, spitting, biting, kicking, anything like that, okay? More importantly, in the indelible age of social network, you don't want to find yourself on Rant and Rave. You don't want to find yourself on TikTok, and God forbid you don't want to find yourself in the crime report at the Clipper, right? It's actually kind of funny, but you don't want to find yourself there. So I'm going to talk about the rules of engagement. Tonight, we have 5 questions we're going to ask each of the incumbents from Ward 1 and Ward 2. They will be timed for 3 minutes, and they'll just go opposite. I had this very cute little app I was going to use that kind of spins the wheel, and I'm sure that'll be used later on this week with the school trustees and the other wards and the mayoral forum. But tonight, we've got our 2 known and trusted and true. So we'll just take turns, and we'll go in order of Ward 1 and 2, and then 2 and 1. These questions will have a time limit of 3 minutes, and then after they've answered 5 questions that were picked by the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to pick out of a hat some random questions. There were 13 questions put in, and we're going to pick for each one of them, and that question will go back. It won't go back in the hat. After that, we will invite audience participation if you have a question, but we're going to task you now to not be anonymous. And if you have a question for either candidate or both, we'll have you come up to the microphone and ask that question. At the very end, we will, in fact, ask them to summarize if there is a summary or a closeout comment they want to make. But moving forward then, one thing I want to do, and I'm going to give them 3 minutes, is if I could ask, and we'll start with Ward 1. We'll start with Mr. Glenn Fuel, Ward 1. I'm going to ask the question. Could you introduce yourself and tell us why you want to run for council again?
Is this on? Bring it closer. Okay. Hi, I'm Glenn Fuel, and I'm running as a councillor in Ward 1 for the reason I love my community and I want to give back to my community, and that is the real reason. I think everybody that lives in this community has lots of opportunity, and we have lots of economic development and also good opportunities to grow with this community, and that's the reason I'm running.
Am I supposed to just go?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn. Certainly, Howard Berdeen.
All right. Yeah, I'm Howard Berdeen, and oh, that better? Okay. I'm Howard Berdeen, and I've lived in the community now for 55 of my 59 years, although my first 4 years we were farming in the community already. We lived in Winnipeg, but would come out to my grandma's farm a lot and be there. So I still feel like I've been here for 59 years. So that's my claim to fame as a Springfield resident. And we had a farm that was over 125 years old in the family, started in the 1890s. And we just retired from the farm in 2018, and so no one is farming it anymore except other people. So we are in this position. We ran for council 4 years ago, had the privilege of being elected, and exactly like Glenn, I was able to make my life here as a farmer, and also my brother and I had a business, H&D Farm and Auto, for 20 years. So we made our living in this community. We gave to the community. They gave to us. They helped us be able to raise families. Our kids I went to school here, my kids went to school here, and so I just feel appropriate that I should be helping back and giving to my community. So,
Thank you, Howard. I didn't have to time. They both came under 3 minutes and 1. I'm going to move to the municipal candidate advanced questions. Again, they were given these last week and had time to kind of review and reflect on maybe their responses or how they would treat those responses. So on this case, and we'll time you, Howie, you got 3 minutes. Seems funny though, because you guys are pretty good right there. Okay, so the first question we have is, what do you see as the RM's top 3 priorities? And then please tell us more about your top priority.
All right. So I kind of see 3 things: infrastructure and community safety and economic development. With infrastructure, it's keeping our roads maintained, reviewing things like dust abatement in the country, and ensuring our drainage systems, both town and out in the country as well, they're functioning, they're keeping our homes safe, they're keeping our fields safe. And as a farmer, drainage was always a big priority in my early days. Community safety, making sure we're funding our fire department, our Springfield Police, to provide the necessary equipment they need to save lives and protect property. And also that we should assess all our policies and decisions that we make through a water safety lens. Water is important to all of us, and so we want to make sure that the long-term health of our water supply here in Springfield is well looked after. And then economic development, keeping taxes fair while providing quality municipal services. We need to increase our tax base without raising taxes, and bringing in businesses, and that will help do that for the homeowners. Maintaining or improving services for all residents will happen that way. And I also think we need to increase housing options for seniors who want to stay in Springfield. We've been having some newer seniors facilities. My parents have just moved into that, so I find that to be something important in life. But also affordable housing for young people, kids that are just, well, kids, I shouldn't use that, but young adults who are maybe wanting their first home. And Springfield's fairly expensive, so I think we need to have other options for people as well, more affordable housing. So yeah, I want to see a range of housing for seniors right down to those who are first entering the housing market. And what would my top priority be? Well, I'd like people to live, work, play, and stay in Springfield. And I think a combination of the 3 things being funded properly and watched over carefully will actually provide that. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Howard. Mr. Glenn Fuel, Ward 1. Same question. What do you see as the RM's top 3 priorities? And then please tell us more about your top priority.
Yeah, so the three items that I have is affordable housing again. We want people to live here and be able to afford to live here. Again, it's a challenge. Everything's getting more costly. And we need to work on that to allow that to happen for young and old to stay in this community. Secondly is the economic growth. We want our community to grow with economics. If we don't have businesses in this RM, then we fail, because we need that economic establishment so that we can live, work, and play, exactly like Howie said. We gotta work together and play together. For the third one is keeping our water safe. It's very important that we keep our water safe. You know, again, we all drink it. We drink out of the aquifer, so it's important that we carry on and look after that resource. You know, we've done studies, and the studies we need to carry on and continue to know that we're doing a good job. The top priority, I guess, is all 3 in my opinion. It's again is being healthy, working and playing, and living in this RM is important for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, the next question we have, and we'll start with Glenn. What has been your biggest contribution to our municipality to date?
So I have kind of 2 hats, how I put it. I have 2 contributions in it, is how I would say. I own Video King, and I've been doing Video King in this municipality for 38 years. I've been supplying entertainment to this community, all communities in the RM of Springfield. I supply movies to all the grocery and convenience stores throughout the years. And that is a big, to me, It's a good thing of doing economic for the people. The second one is the the development plan. As I sat on council, we put many hours in, and the residents have put many hours into that document also. And that was a really good sign to see that we could all work together for one common goal of the development plan. And we had many open houses, and I feel I contributed to that. And I know that all residents have too. And those are the two items that I have as the biggest contributions to this municipality.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. So Howard Burdine, the same question, representing Ward 2. What has been your biggest contribution to the municipality to date?
Okay, well, I think I've divided it up in two as well, because for the first 40 years, I wasn't on council, so everything was a different world for me. So I think I contributed by being a farmer. I brought food to some of you people, hopefully, or a roundabout way. But that was important. I served on various agricultural committees in our area. I was on the Dugald Elevator Board for a number of years. I was also a sub-district representative to Manitoba Pool Elevators, and during that, still need closer, okay. And during that time, that's when Manitoba Pool amalgamated with Alberta Pool and became Agricor United. And anyway, that was, so my farming was that part, and then for 20 years of that, I had H&D Farm and Auto Supply with my brother, and so I supplied farmers with bearings and belts and pulleys, and we had a mechanic that fixed tractors, and then we were in the lawn and garden business, and we sold lawn tractors and lawnmowers to people. So I think I contributed to the community in that way, in a service area. And then I've been a church leader in my church for that full 45 years now, with the greatest part being the choir director since 1983. So next year it's going to be 40 years. So guys from my church, it's my 40th anniversary next year. Make sure you remember that. So I plan to direct one more year to get there, so I hope that happens. And then I've been volunteering over the last number of years while I was a farmer and now as a counselor, but with the Safari Grow Group, which is part of the Canadian Food Grains Bank. And farmers in the area have been growing grain and then selling that grain, and that money is turned around, and the government doubles it and quadruples it in some cases, and it goes to those needy countries around the world to buy food for them. So those are actually, I think, bigger contributions that I've made through that time than I actually have through council. But it's been great to work with council, to work collaboratively. I've made that one of my points. If you'll see, my brochure is going to be in the mail in the Oakbank area in the next couple of days. You're going to see that. And I don't believe in grandstanding and doing my own thing, but working with council. And it's been a privilege to work on the development plan and the zoning plan. We had hoped to have it through, but it's not totally done yet. But we hope that that's going to happen in the near future. And also the new fire hall that we brought into the industrial zone. We were able to come under a previous budget and buy a building and renovate it for a lot less money and rent out part of it to actually pay for the parts of the building as well. So I've been proud of that. I did also, as a stakeholder with the farmers and with church groups, talk to the development plan when it was in its beginning stages. So I contributed to that in that way as well. So yeah, that would be my answer for that.
Thank you, Howard. So, in random selection of numbers, you get to answer the next question first. Tell us about a time that you've changed your mind on an issue.
Well, that's for me. Okay. So I gave this little story 4 years ago, so I'm going to give it again. I was flying home from Mexico with my family, and I have 2 boys and my wife. And you know, when you're in an airplane, there's the 3 seats, and then one of you in a family's got to sit separate. Well, my wife and my boys always wanted to sit together, and so I get stuck with the other person because I'm the talker. And I sat down beside what I found out to be Mayor Fenske from Thompson, Manitoba. I had no interest in those days of being a municipal councillor, but we started talking, and we talked from that whole trip, which was almost 5 hours. And my wife says I talked more. I argue that he talked more. But anyway, in that thing, there was a lot of interesting things about his life, but he told me that whenever you get into government, and in his case, when he was on local council on Thompson and then became the mayor, you get a lot more information that changes your mind on certain issues. And I found that that is true. When I was on the outside, I perceived something from a certain way. When you get on the inside, you get more information, you know, and you have people that are, you know, teaching you different things, our administration, our guys in charge of public works. Yeah, I figured I didn't know everything anymore. But from that, there's one area that I had campaigned last time on the thing of a rec hall, or more of a community hall. And I would say the one area that I've changed my mind a bit on is the larger rec center idea that we've been promoting for the last 4 years. I just think that as I've talked to more people in the community, from senior citizens who want walking tracks to kids that want indoor soccer, and there's 600 kids playing soccer in Springfield. So I came to a wider and broader view of recreation and the importance, and the building of the splash pad and the playground and the skateboard park, and during COVID, the way families used it in the parks. I just saw the value to this, because they are, especially these outdoor things, are cheap entertainment for kids. So I have a different view. I'm still very frugal, and as we go forward with the rec center, we are going to have a lot of other government grants to see it happen. But I still am in favor of what that idea is and how my mind changed from one point to the other. So,
Thank you, Howard. So, Mr. Glenn Fuel, Ward 1, you have the same question. Tell us about a time when you changed your mind on an issue.
Well, it's kind of interesting. What came to my mind when I read this question was a time when I had young children, and when I had young children, I always was a yes man. And I seemed to be getting myself into trouble all the time, because they'd always come to Dad, because they always knew Dad would say yes. So I had to learn, again, to make different decisions and make different choices instead of saying yes. And in that case, ask more questions. And not rush to make a yes. So again, you know, those decisions that you make, you got to fact find, you got to ask many questions. And if you feel that you have to make a decision too fast, then the answer is no. You know what, I need more time, I need to do more research, I need to find out things. So I think that's all part of the changing your mind is the fact finding and knowing, you know, exactly what it is you're making a decision on, so that you make the right decision at the best of your knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. So I purposely mixed you guys up insofar as you had an order of questions, and I kind of put it out of order on purpose. So, Glenn, you get to answer this right off the bat. How would you attract new business to Springfield? If you do not want new business, please tell us why.
Well, I want to attract new businesses. That's how our economy turns. We need the money to rotate in this community to help us live and have a good life. I'd create an economic development plan. I'd look at our strengths and our weaknesses, look at our diversification, make sure that we're in check with everything so that we don't have just one industry that's strong and then another industry that's weak. We need to have a combination of industries so that we're not vulnerable to an industry that may, you know, all of a sudden, I use an example, is the car industry, the vehicle industry. It's changing. We're going from gas vehicles to electric vehicles. If we were relying on that one industry, we could be in trouble. So we want to be able that we're diversified with this economic diversification. And that's important to keep this economy going and to keep the survival of the RM growing in a good way. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. So, Howard, same question for you. How would you attract new business to Springfield? Or if you don't want new business, tell us why.
I guess, well, for me, we had a business here for 20 years. But there was a period of time there we had wanted to build a new building, and most of you in this room probably know that building is called Ag Advantage today. It took us 7 years because of a development plan not finished, and the only reason my brother and I stayed in Oakbank is because that was our home and we wanted to have our business here. Some people would have given up and gone elsewhere. So I always think you have to have a friendly and positive attitude to businesses and buildings that want to go up and be built. And so our permitting process and we've tried to work on that as council to see that that's quicker. I was in a conversation here in Brandon earlier this year at the, now it's called the Watershed meetings, and the council from the RM of Morris, one of their residents was awarded a beautiful yard situation. And I went into the group, I knew a few of them, and he was now asking that since his yard and the big business that he had in their municipality, that maybe he should get some tax breaks, and the council started choking on that. So I stepped right in and said, you can come to Springfield. We welcome you to be there. So I think as council and people, we also need to have our eyes and ears open and just be friendly to businesses and encourage them to come into our municipality. And if they're right for our municipality, then we want to move ahead with them. I think we need to be open-minded to ideas that are working in other jurisdictions, other towns and municipalities, and that's one of the things when we go to meetings of the AMM and the FCM, the federal and the provincial municipality meetings, we run into a lot of councillors, we run into people, and we find out what they're doing. And we have some very progressive towns and municipalities in southern Manitoba, and I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from them. And we have put in a tax incentive policy that's in a 3, 4, and 5-year stage, depending on how much money you are going to spend in building or increasing your business. And I think you need to help a business start, because later on they're going to give you a lot of tax dollars as their business grows and thrives. So yeah, that's my idea.
Thank you, Howard. These guys are good. I've had this little timer going, and they stay within their 3 minutes, hey? So experience.
My wife is surprised.
Yeah, my husband does the Archie Bunker thing with me. Yeah. So, given that this whole forum has been organized and planned by the Chamber of Commerce, they are interested in business. So those are, we appreciate your responses and your answers. So we're going to throw you a little curveball for the last question here, because it is something, and I remember looking at it and thinking it would be hard to answer. Again, Ward 1 and Ward 2 of the RM of Springfield has the most diverse range of issues. And again, we've got everything from aggregates to corporate business to agriculture to equestrian to Main Street business, small business, recreation, you could go on. And you'd be hard-pressed to find another RM that isn't that close to the city that has such a diverse range of issues. But one thing that comes up out of the blue sometimes is the school division. It's a large range, the Sunrise School Division. So I will ask you, Glenn, are there any ways in which the RM of Springfield and the Sunrise School Division could work more collaboratively? And if so, could you give us an example?
Yeah, so I started off with sitting down with them and finding out what each one's needs are, or what is the wish list. Towns and rurals are growing, and we need to plan for the future and not wait till time has run out and we cannot supply the demand. So it's important that our schools are in sync with our growth of the city, or the town, I should say. Once again, is if we're not in sync, it's not going to work, and it's going to be last minute, and it's going to be reacting, and reacting doesn't work. We need to look ahead. We need to see what the future brings. We have to plan ahead. Developments are planning ahead, and we need to know that the school division is on side with our growth, and that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Len Fuel. So Howard Burdine, are there any ways in which you think the RM of Springfield and the Sunrise School Division could work more collaboratively with the entire RM? And if so, give an example.
Well, the first thing I wish they would do is take the school part off of the tax bill so that the people would actually see what they pay for schools and not blame us as the municipality for that whole big tax bill. Just to remind people that just over 60% of your tax bill is school taxes. So if you've got a $3,000 tax bill, $2,000 goes to the school board, so only yell at me for the $1,000 that we're spending of your money. So that's just the one, but that is the province has said we have to collect it, and so that is the way that works. But I think we haven't I'll be honest, I don't think we've communicated that greatly, and I think it's both sides. We sometimes run into issues that pit us against each other. So I believe we've only had one meeting with trustees and council and some trustees that in my time. So I think better communication, finding out. I hear that we have full schools. My parents tell me the schools are packed, but I don't know that from the school division. We ask them to let us know when we're planning new subdivisions, comments. We don't hear that. And once again, I don't want to blame them because I think we have a part of the blame to take too. So basically, I just think better communication between the two is one of the main things we need to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Howard. And you answered that question.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to where we just pick some random questions. We're going to put them on the spot, and they have no idea, but they're in a hat here. We've got a dozen plus questions here, and they're not allowed to pull the same one. We'll take them out of the hat. And then we'll start with Glenn on that question. So Glenn, and you've got 3 minutes.
The question is, share your thoughts on why people are hesitant to run for public office. In your opinion, is it a problem or not? The reason that I think it's hard to get people to run for public office is, first, you're putting yourself out there. As you know, I'm in front of you all, and it takes a person to be able to do that. The other side is that, if we're talking municipal business, there is just a lot of work. It's not given that you get paid well in this position. You put a lot of work in and you're giving back to your community. And that is the reason I, again, am here, because I'm able to give back. But on a normal basis, if you take a young family, they can't afford to quit their jobs and have this as a main job. So we're losing out on that generation because they need the money to support their families. And I think that is the biggest issue that we have, is that we just don't support that to be able to draw that age of a crowd. And at the same time, it's a beautiful thing if you can do it, because you get to work with your RM and the people that you live with. And it's a big community, and we're all here for that reason. As Howie would say, live, work, and play. It's all part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Howard, we'll get you to pull out of a hat.
Okay, Springfield has an incredibly diverse population. Is there anything that local leaders can do to unite our community, or is a united front important? Yeah, I think a united front is important. I think things like recreation can bring people together. Community events. I actually know that next year, because of a lady who's here, emailed me and reminded me that it's the 150th anniversary of Springfield. And our administration is looking into it. And something like that brings the community together in some kind of celebration. So I hope next year we will be planning some events that all of you will be taking part in. So I think the Chicken Days, I think the fireworks at Dugald, and sort of, there is a country-town splits. There is the baseball rivalries of Dugald and Oakbank go back centuries almost already. And so I think that's coming together, and it was healthy, but it also needs to come where we are a community. Oakbank is not a town, Dugald is not a town, Anola is not a town. They are villages or hamlets of the municipality of Springfield, 16,000 people. And so, yes, there's the farming community, there is the equestrian community, there's the aggregate community, and we have to find ways, and I think social ways are probably, because we have these differences, but I think social ways of getting people together is probably the top way to accomplish that. So that, I think, would be the best answer I'd give you right now.
Thank you, Howard. I could confer to that. All right, we've come to the part of the evening in the agenda where we would normally have people send up questions, right? That becomes a little bit discombobulated. insofar as we don't want to prioritize one over the other. So now we're challenging our audience. You are the invested people of the community of Wards 1 and 2 in the RM Springfield. So if I could invite anybody who would like to ask one or both of our candidates, Glenn Fuel, Ward 1, Howard Burdine, Ward 2, a specific question, we invite you up to the microphone. That would tell me either that they've given really good responses or that they've covered pretty much any concerns. Okay, thank you. Is this mic on? Or you can use mine. Okay.
A major concern seems to be the aquifer or water supply. What's your opinion? Do you think we're overtaxing that? Should we be discouraging businesses that are coming in that need so much water, you know, such as the peat moss and the silicon sand, etc.?
Gentlemen? Who's first? Well, let's go random here. Howard, you can answer first.
Okay. So, of course, when I got onto council, there was a number of the reports to read. The Friesen Drillers report was one of them. And I mean, there is a large body of water underneath us still, from my understanding. You've mentioned the Berger peat moss plant, so we'll talk about that. They use less water than a dairy farm that was right located in that area 10 years ago. And so I think people don't realize they're using it to wash floors and use washrooms for their employees. There is not a lot of water there. So personally, I'm not concerned. We did not give the water rights. That's the provincial government does all of that. And so, but for me, knowing that there was a dairy farmer there, maybe it's 15 years ago, using more water than the peat moss plant does today, tells me, and there were no issues then. We have another large dairy farm closer to Oakbank yet that milks hundreds of cows. We haven't seen problems with that, and so my agriculture background says to me that I don't think there is a major problem, but we always need to be watching and be concerned. So on those, what you brought up here, I do think we need to look also, we've talked about moving the Heatherdale wells that we have and moving those and getting our water from the southeast of Dugald. So we are, as council, preparing to do that in the future. And so there is an open pit there, but I drink the water from the Oakbank water system, and I think I'm healthy, and I think the water's okay. So in that case, yeah, that would be my answers to your questions. So.
Thank you, Howard. Glenn, what would be your response?
Yeah, my response is that the water is very important to us. And the water, we've done many studies. And in these studies, we've worked with hydrologists and expert people. And we have to take their expertise into what we consider as information and the facts. So when I read these studies, they're very difficult to understand. So I went up to a hydrologist one time here and said, somebody that I know, and said, when do I start worrying about the quantity of the water, or the quality and the quantity? And the gentleman said back to me, he said, you know what, Glenn, and I need to understand this in layman's terms, because I need to understand so I can tell the residents of how do I explain this to them? And he said to me, he said, there's one way that you can look at this. The aquifer, like Howie says, is very big, and there's a fair amount of water underneath there. When we need to start worrying is when the Red River goes dry. So if you take that analogy and you look at the Red River, well, the Red River has always had water in it, even in these dry years. But when we really need to be concerned is when there's no more water in the Red River. And that's his analogy in layman's terms, to start worrying then, he told me. But until then, there's be plenty of water. Another gentleman that works for Natural Resources, I went to him and I said the same thing. I said, you know, again, I want a different opinion. And the opinion that I got was that, you know, the provincial government put in the floodway, and we have these natural springs. And he said to me, he says, do you know how much water we lose through these natural springs? It's huge.
And it's more water than a lot of us as industries are even using. So again, I think again you have to look at it in those terms, and at the same time, let the professionals tell us that whether we are in a bad position or a good position. And thank God that we had rain this year, so that has helped the table of the water table grow again up higher. So again, God will look after us in many ways, but we do need to be on top of it. And having said that is, like Howie says, the province is the one that makes these decisions in the end. We definitely can put the lobbying behind it to say, look, we need you to make sure you're taking care of us as a municipality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Is there anybody else out here engaged in potentially asking a question or concern? Okay, then I will give you the microphone.
The RM issued a water advisory, boil water advisory just last week, starting this Monday. Do you have a reason as to why?
Glenn, we can let you answer first.
Yeah, I believe you're talking about in the town here. There was a pipe that was, I guess, contaminated. So they did, they put some pucks, disinfecting pucks in there, and they flowed from one hydrant to another hydrant to clean it out. And my understanding now that we're just waiting for the tests to come back tomorrow, and it should hopefully be cleaned up. Once again, as bacteria grows in the pipes, and if you recall, it works the same way with wells. We have to shock our wells to chlorinate, to clean out the pipes. So there is that process that takes place in times. So that is the reason for the water advisory, that there was some contamination in the pipes. So they'll announce when we don't have to go out? That they will. Okay.
Thank you, Glenn and Howard, because that was such a question, and you two work together as incumbents. Do you have anything to add to that?
Do you live on Kyra Bay? Okay, well, yeah, then, yeah, basically, there was a little bit of an error that it went out to a larger area than necessary. That happened, but Kyra Bay was the particular street where, and a few houses in there where the major issue was that they were dealing with. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from, we do. Would you like to come up? Perfect.
This question is actually for both incumbent councillors. Since the last election, Springfield has changed its ward boundaries. It's gone from 5 councillors to 4. Actually, 5 wards to 4. A councillor resigned earlier. But, sorry, okay. What effect do you think it will have on the municipal operations and council decisions for the next 4 years of having only 4 wards in the municipality versus 5?
Howard, and we'll let you start with that question.
Well, we've been operating technically with 4 councillors, and now actually 3 for the last few months. But when I was going around last time, and basically Ward 2 was Oakbank, so I was hearing people had been watching the news articles, were concerned that the council was continually tying, and work was being, and ideas were being shut down, and then they'd come back and tie again. And so I was hearing that something had to be done, an odd number. So I was open and believed myself that an odd number on council, so the mayor gets a vote, so that would mean the mayor and either 4 or 6 other councillors, depending if you wanted to go up or down. We did put out surveys as the RM. They were online, and I guess, I've heard that a lot of people didn't know there were surveys, and maybe we didn't do as good a job as we should, but I thought we did. And so anyway, the majority of people came back with wanting less councillors, wanted to spend less money on us, I guess. But I think we each have around 3,800 people now, and I had 5,000 technically before. I did my job. I hope people thought I did my job in connecting with people. So people-wise, I think the councillors can easily handle the 38 to 4,000 people, sort of in that rough range that we all have. So I'm comfortable with that. That was what the majority of the people that sent back surveys and answered questions. And so I could have either gone either way, one more or one less, but I felt I listened to what the majority of the people said, and I went that direction. So that was my reason for doing it. I think we can do a good job with that. I don't think it will really affect the municipality in any major way, in my opinion.
Thank you, Howard. What are your thoughts, Glenn, on this whole boundary change and being
Yeah,
down
I
to
agree
5
with
wards?
Howie with everything he said. The other thing I would add is that they can be changed again. You know, we can review it. If we hear an outcry from the public that they're not being serviced, then let's look at it again. It's not in stone. We can always change things if need be. So again, your voice is important to us. If you're reaching out to your counselor and you're not getting a response back, then, you know, these boundaries are only for election purposes, just so you know that. You know, after the election, we can answer all your calls. Like, you can phone Ward 3, you can phone Ward 4, or Ward 1. Like, again, you're not stuck just to your one counselor. I know the mentality sometimes is, but you're my counselor. But if so happen you're not getting an answer, try another counselor. I tell everybody that, like, I'm open. Give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Do we have another question from,
Hi. You can both answer this, and I'll be asking this question on Friday. Communication, part 1 and part 2. Part 1, transparency. 4 years ago, I heard a lot about transparency, and I saw transparency for the first 3 or 4 months, and I've seen transparency again in the last 4 months. Now, there was COVID in between, but there's unique opportunity there. I do get the emails. I do go to the website, and I follow generally Oakbank, Rant and Rave 1, 2, and 3. So, but what can council do to continue or to improve that communication, that transparency? That's part 1. Part 2 is more important. How can you work to simplify some of the issues and the information on these issues? On this water stuff, I went to 2 or 3 meetings, and I've got a science background, and my head was still spinning. And I noticed, too, that sometimes the answers, and the ones that I read on the website, some of the answers are, you can tell that they're emotional and they're angry at the opposite side, and that they're just answering that one thing. They give one sentence, and that's the answer. When if you would spend a little more time and find a way, and there's lots of smart people, find a way of simplifying it so that everybody can understand. That's really hard to do, but you give 2 sentences or 3 sentences, and now all of a sudden everybody can understand that. So what can council do to improve communication transparency, and I'll call it simplicity? Thank you.
Thank you. Then I guess, Glenn, we'll start with you.
Yeah, communication. So I've been out campaigning the last little while, and I found, I met this resident. She was all concerned, and, again, there's a paper going out there that we're doing all bad things. So I spent an hour with this person and just went through each individual item with them. And as I went through each individual item, I helped her because she wasn't tech savvy, but she had an iPad. So I said to her, you know what? I got some time here. Let me show you how this works. So we went onto the RM website. I went through it with her. I said, if you want to see what the agenda is on the council meetings, this is how you get there. This is how it works. And again, she was really frustrated with me when I first came to the door. But when I was done, she was actually happy that I showed her how it works. So sometimes it's just understanding how that technology works. The other side to that fence is yes, a newsletter. But again, you need the tools to be able to find those tools. And whether we like it or not, technology is changing. I'm the one that knows that most, being in the video industry. Okay? I started out with beta. I came out with VHS. I came out with DVD. I came out with Blu-ray. I came out with it doesn't stop. So again, if we're not learning or changing our ways of learning, then you're going to be left behind. That's the way it is. So I think that's the piece that needs the education, is how do we use these tools to be able to know what council's doing.
Thank you, Glenn. What would be your response, Howard?
I liked your point about simplicity because, I mean, I get lost when you listen to some of these arguments and people who seem to think they know. And I mean, I was just a farmer and a businessman, and I had my scope of knowledge, and now you're a counselor and everybody thinks you totally fully understand. So I'm in the same thing. I want things simplified. I think we have done a fairly decent job of improving these email blasts. People have to get on them, definitely. We are in the Clipper. We were criticized. I remember we had a nice kind of, I thought, a flashy newsletter, and people thought we were criticized for spending too much money on trying to get that out. So yeah, so that for some reason, but so we've been trying. I know there was a gentleman in our community here in Oakbank that often emailed us in the first 2 years. He has quit emailing us because I think he has found that we're doing a better job of getting that kind of information out. But yeah, definitely, I mean, communication. I mean, COVID was in its own, yeah, the middle years were tough. I mean, I guess the good thing is, I mean, I had to learn how to do Zoom. I mean, I've been brought into the technology world during this year, and I'm still, how do you do this? And we're lucky we have our IT people that are helping us with that. But I mean, now all our meetings are on Zoom. You can get on, so it's actually more open than before. If you couldn't get to a meeting, it's taped. You can watch it afterwards. So I think we're doing a better job. Could we do better? I know I'll be honest, the word transparency, I hear that so often, I don't really know what it means, because it seems people just throw that out if they don't think they're getting the answer they want, so you're not transparent. So I'll be honest, that's what I think. Let's use a better word. I know what you're trying to say. You want us to be open and honest with the people. Yeah, let's try to be open and honest with the people, and I think we've been trying to be as best we can. So,
Thank you, Howard. Is there any other questions from the audience out there? Glenn, I'll let you take the answer for that first.
Okay, so I have a question. Development agreement in,
our development plan, does
or,
she mean?
yeah. Okay, so are we talking the zoning? Because the development plan has been passed.
Some of the secondary.
The secondary plans have been passed too. So I'm just trying to understand the wording, and maybe that's. When did that happen? Well, the development plan was passed in 2019, and the zoning's not passed because now we're in a public hearing process, so that's taken place. I can tell you that everything has gone to the municipal board for that to happen, but again, you got to remember these files are like this, and I don't believe the municipal board is going to call a hearing until they've reviewed all the documentation, because they have to know what they're dealing with when they go to the public. So, you know, we haven't got a date when that's going to happen, which again, I don't think is going to happen tomorrow, because they have to read through all the material. Okay? No. No, we have our own planning department.
Howard, would you like a response to that question regarding the development plan?
I mean, there's not a lot more to say. I mean, I thought we would be done by now, but we have been held up. I don't know if you understand the process. If council passes something and 25 citizens decide that they don't agree with it, they can bring a petition before to the municipal board. And so this has been happening to us for months. And the people have the right to do it, but it's out of our hands. And then 6 to 9 months when the municipal board hears things. So as Glenn says, we're just not sure. I can't give you a date. I don't know how long it's going to get
Okay.
hung up. It's got to, it has to
I
pass.
have a question here, because in my head's right now going through, okay, is this a campaigning items or is this a municipal items that we're dealing with? So, you know, I mean, listening to the public or to the residents here, and I'm saying, you know, if you have questions, again, please phone us. We're here for you. We serve you. So give us that call so that you understand how things work. Because believe you me, I would open my door for you just so you understand how things work. And we are here to help you to understand that. And if we don't understand it ourselves, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say I don't know, but give me some time to go get that information and get back to you. I think that's what we need to do. We just need to communicate that back and forth with one another. And I think then we will take away that how would you put it, just that disgruntlement or that, again, we're here to serve you. We're here to make this work. We want this to be a happy community. We're not here to fight. We're not here to, again, it's important that we all work together and that we have one common goal: live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Isn't it true that we don't decide on the issues, we decide on the people who decide on the issues? Is that not true? And it always amazes me, and thank you for your responses. It always amazes me. I'm on several committees throughout the RM Springfield, and the information is there. If you might not be tech savvy, but it's on the minutes of the council meetings. It's on Rant and Rave, God forbid. It's in the Clipper, but you know what? I agree, in a non-bipartisan way, rather, a phone call. Whatever happened to a phone call? We get so tied up in the technology that you just have to make a phone call. So I do want to ask if there's anybody else out there that has a question for these gentlemen that have given of their time. Again, I commend them for stepping up to give an ear and a voice to the issues of the RM of Springfield, and again, specifically Ward 1 and 2. And again, invite anybody that's interested. Tomorrow night, we're running a forum for Ward 3 and 4. And Thursday night, it will be the school trustees. There's quite a few people running for that. And then on Friday night will be the mayoral forum. So I think we're in for an interesting and informative and educated week. Last chance for a question before I ask these gentlemen to sum up. Yes? No, I'll be honest with you. They were given the opportunity, and the response was that, sorry? Okay, the question was, did the other two candidates respond to the answers? No, they were given every opportunity. They were, September 27th, the questions went out, and the response we got from Andy Kuzninski, elect Councillor Ward 2, was, I'm going to be honest here, this is not a bipartisan thing, but was none. And then the response by Vince Benici that he was otherwise engaged. So I'm just putting it out there, and to be fair to everybody, they likely have a platform, they might have a flyer, and again, and I can't emphasize this enough, people, if you have a question of a candidate, call. So based on that, and again, I thank the Chamber of Commerce again for allowing us this forum. And before we give these guys a hand, I would like to know if they'd like to summarize anything. We'll start with Howard.
So 4 years ago, I sat here and I thought I had a handle on what it was like to be a counselor. And then I got elected, and for the next 2 years, I wanted to quit. The learning curve was so steep, and being a farmer and a businessman all my life, I thought I knew a lot of stuff, but I didn't know a lot of stuff. And so I just let you know that councillors are ordinary Joes. Most of us get elected, some because we're maybe a little more popular than the other guy. People know you better than somebody else, but we're really ordinary people who have to, like the amount of reading, the first planning meeting we had, there was 300 pages. And I said to my wife, like, now I understand how to go through this information, but nobody taught me. And I'm thankful to the other councillors and our administration who were very helpful. I'm sure they rolled their eyes with me lots of times. And, but anyway, yeah, we're just ordinary people. You know what? I hope we're doing the best that we can. I believe we are. 15 years from now, can I look back and say, maybe I should have made a different decision? That's quite possible, but I think most of you in your life can look back and say, you know what, I probably should have made a different decision. But I think we're all trying to do our best. And so, yeah, that's my little story, is that we're ordinary people. And yeah, sometimes it's tough when people think that we're going to be able to answer the problem quickly. We can't always. And that's the hardest thing for me, is when I can't satisfy a person, I just can't give them what they want. I like to please people, and many people tell me, yeah, well, you know, you can't please all the people all the time. I say, no, but I still don't sleep at night when I don't. So Anyway, that's who I am. I'm grateful for the 4 years that Ward 2, and that was the whole town or village of Oakbank. Got to be careful with that. And now I'm looking to serve half of Oakbank, the west side, and right into the industrial area. So I hope that I've been able to answer the questions here to your satisfaction. And yeah, if you have more afterwards, talk to me. So
Thank you, Howard and Glenn. You two have been given the big switcheroo. You're over now with the other half of Oakbank. And a
Yes.
little bit moving out a little bit more rural. What closing remarks could you share?
Well, and I look at this as an opportunity. I look at this as now I got urban and rural, and it's kind of exciting. To me, we once again don't realize what we have. A lot of communities are RMs that are just city or town or just rural, and we have both. So we can all work together and make this grow into great leaps and bounds, in my opinion. We have lots of opportunity here. And we just got to look at that and work with that. So I'll just say it this way. Let's keep moving Springfield forward, because if we're standing still, we're working backwards. And that's important. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I end an intimate evening. Thank you very much. But let's give these guys a hand. Again, thank you for your participation. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce, SCI Sunrise School Division, and to Councillor Glenn Fuel and Councillor Howard Burdine, incumbent. That said, there are 4, right? And I invite you to ask them all any questions you want and engage with them. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you.
thanks.